I had the opportunity to attend Cedar Rapids Comic-Con for the first time, and I came home with a lot. Not just Nintendo and Super Nintendo, but a whole lot of Xbox and much more. So let's take a look at what I have in this supersized episode of Musty's Quest and the Collection Chronicles. Hello YouTube, Musty Hobbit here, and as I said, I had the opportunity to attend Cedar Rapids Comic-Con last weekend. This was the first time that they had done that event in such an organized setting, and I will say, just from what I've heard and what I've seen, it was, I would say, an overwhelming success. So I'm really looking forward for future years for this event. I used this as an opportunity to meet up with some of my friends from the Iowa Retro Gamer Nation who came in from out of town, as well as to peruse and see what sort of vendors and other opportunities were around. I knew that there would be one primary vendor, and I had sort of planned ahead for that. NES Depot was going to be there, and they are an online store that I've done quite a bit of business with in the past, and this was going to be an opportunity to kind of see their entire store all on a set of a couple tables, which I was definitely looking forward to. My only disappointment with the whole convention, he was the only vendor. There really was not any other video game presence, which was okay. Having other members from the Iowa Retro Gamer Nation there was definitely advantageous. It allowed us to meet and trade, and in some cases wrap up some deals that we were working on that just had not shipped yet. So I have a lot to show you, and I've tried to break it up into different segments so we can go through that, but most of it, again, I mentioned earlier, it is a lot of Nintendo and a lot of Super Nintendo and a whole lot of Xbox, but I did get some things that are a little bit outside of my normal collection realm, but they're things that I couldn't pass up, and so we'll dive in right away with Nintendo Powers. I used to get Nintendo Power magazine when I was young, and I don't know whatever happened to those issues. It saddens me to think what may have come of those. But NES Depot had a large sampling of somewhere in the range of 100 different issues, of which I grabbed, I think, 15 of them in total, and they were all priced, pretty well, I would say. Having to not ship these is definitely something that's an advantage when it comes to these, because you can tend to find them on eBay or in other venues, and shipping is really kind of exorbitant when it comes to magazines, especially ones that are as heavy as these can be in bulk. So kind of go through these and show you the issues that I got. Some of these I selected because they are games that are on the top 100 list for either the Nintendo or Super Nintendo, which is what I'm working toward. Some of them I have already, some of them I don't, and then some of them I just got because I either thought the covers were fascinating or the condition on these. In fact, the condition on a lot of these is really good, but let's get going on these. We have Tetris. We've got Batman, and this is the one with Jack Nicholson on the cover. Then we have the strategy guide for Ninja Gaiden 2. Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Dr. Mario. Star Tropics. Metal Storm, and that's again one of the NES games that is still on my list there. It's one of the more expensive games, usually going for over $100, but the Nintendo Power for it now. Power Blade, which also falls into that don't yet have category. Vice Project Doom, in the same boat there. Battletoads. Final Fantasy II. We have Metroid, and this is for Metroid 2 Return of Samus. Mario Paint. Super Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, and I love the rendition of Yoda on the front here. It looks hand-drawn. It's actually really quite impressive, so I'm very happy to have that issue. And then the last one, probably the best condition of the ones that I picked up, is for Secret of Mana. So those are the Nintendo Powers I acquired. I basically doubled my Nintendo Power collection at this point with that purchase. I had picked up some last year around my birthday, and so when they're a good price, you really can't pass them up. They are so much fun to flip through, and there's so many ads, and just it oozes early 90s, late 80s, and it's a lot of fun to kind of relive those. So the next big segment would be the Xbox games. As you know, I am working toward a complete set of NTSC, North American Xbox games. Hoping to get them all complete, but I can cope in some situations if I'm not able to get a complete copy. So kind of tear through these. Again, I won't spend a ton of time on any one game here because there are somewhere in the range of 20 to go through. So some of these, I think, one of the things that the early 2000s had was kind of the beginning of the first-person shooter as a common game genre was really kind of firing up. So I do have a few FPSs, and some of these are franchises that are still going strong. We have, let's go through these. We have Delta Force Black Hawk Down. We have the collector's edition of Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1. We have Ghost Recon 2. This is a squad-based shooter. I used to play, I think it was Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter was one that I played, which was a little bit later than that one. And then Far Cry Instincts, which again, the Far Cry series is going strong at this point in time. The next bank of games, and these are ones that either have a big title or a big franchise behind them. So we got Mortal Kombat Deception. I think I'm getting close to having all the Mortal Kombat games on the system now. I think there might be one or two more that I have yet to acquire. Superman Returns. And Predator Concrete Jungle. This is supposed to be an open world Predator game. I remember seeing reviews for it, but I've never had the opportunity to play it. And this one I saw recently on somebody's hidden gem list, so I'm kind of glad it happened as part of this trade and purchase that I've gotten. But Starsky and Hutch, based on the TV series from the 70s, I believe. So, and then also Episode 3, Return of the Sith. The next batch is going to be mostly flying and driving games. There were a lot of these on the system as well. The Xbox in general did a nice job rendering these types of games, so you really got good graphics out of this and a lot of nice vistas, and it was processing power was good enough that it was able to deal with fast speed and that sort of thing. So we have a couple of flying games. Funny enough, one of them, the first one is Wings of War, and this is a World War I flying game. And then we have Heroes of the Pacific, which is a World War II flying game. Both of which I have yet to play, so that those will be new ones to me. For the racing/driving games, we have Rally Sport Challenge, which was an exclusive for the system. We have Big Mother Truckers, which I am not too familiar with. Let's see about this one. We have Chase Hollywood Stunt Driver. And we have, and these two of the three here are kind of bigger names. So this one was a Rockstar game. This is Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. So this was before GTA 4 this came out. So it has a lot of the driving mechanics that you then saw in Grand Theft Auto, but without a lot of the Grand Theft Auto-ness of it. Then we have Burnout 3 Takedown, which is one I was totally looking for. I think I have Revenge, but I did not yet have Takedown, which is arguably the best of the Burnout games. I hear that the former Burnout devs are making a golf game. Take a look into that if you're interested, but I hear that they are on the verge of coming back with more Burnout soon. Fingers crossed there, because they're extremely fun games, and definitely ones that I'll be looking into if they do actually come out. And then the last of the driving games was Test Drive Eve of Destruction, which is a higher priced game, and I don't know why yet. I'll need to do a little bit more investigation there. And again, most of these are complete and have the manual. That's kind of the way that like I said, that I prefer to pick these up. The last couple games I have, some of these I am not too familiar with. Others, again, just have a name that's something that's still going on, so I thought it was worth acquiring. This one is Headhunter Redemption. I'm not familiar with this one at all, so we'll see what that game is all about. The next one is Gun. This is a Western. This was a game that also came out as a launch title for the 360, so this one was co-developed on both systems. And it's by Neversoft, which is known for the Tony Hawk games, or at least it was at that point. The next one is Just Cause. I believe Just Cause 3 recently came out. This is sort of your, I believe, open world, sort of tropical, mission-based game. And then we have, and this one was acquired in a trade with Isaac from IRGN, and this is Blackstone Magic and Steel. Again, I'm not familiar with this game. I can see that it's an exclusive because it says only for Xbox, but I don't know a whole lot. I watched a quick review of it that said that it's definitely worth diving into, so we'll take a look at Blackstone Magic and Steel. And then the last Xbox game that I got from NES Depot. They had a good number of Xbox games, and there were ones that I was looking at, but this one kind of stood out, and it was one that I haven't seen in person before. So the story behind this is this franchise is one that's still going and going quite strong, even just in this last winter season, holiday season. The previous developer before the current one still had the rights during the original Xbox's run, and they were trying to get one more game in their series out, and that was kind of making a big push there. So without further ado, I guess the last game for Xbox that I acquired was Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. So like I said, this was made by the developers for 1 and 2 before Bethesda took it over for 3, New Vegas, and 4. But this has more of the isometric playstyle and not the first-person playstyle that Bethesda implemented. So we will take a look, and again, complete in really, really nice shape. So thanks to NES Depot for that one. The other big acquisition that I had, it was kind of funny that it happened this way, but I actually picked up 2 more Xboxes from Ben from the Iowa Retro Gamer Nation. He had these, really wasn't going to do a whole lot with them, so I took them off his hands. One of them is an earlier model, just in that it was closer to the original launch, and then one of them actually was a, I think, 2005 model, so it's toward the end. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those yet. I may end up modding one of them or soft modding one of them just because. But I would like to do some System Link. I have a few TVs down here, so it would really be kind of fun to be able to have Halo or other games that we can play System Link on. So again, Ben, thanks for these. There were a number of controllers without breakaway cables, which will be my new challenge, is to try and find some place that's got breakaway cables for those. But I did get another Duke, so that brings me to 3 Duke controllers, which are pretty sought after. They're ones I like it. It tends to fit my hands pretty well. So we will shift gears here and take a look at some of the other stuff that I've gotten. So if you've been following Musty's Quest, which is my series where I am highlighting my both Nintendo and Super Nintendo collections, you'll know that I'm currently at 80 of my top 100 Nintendo games. So I'm kind of limited as to what's left, so when there are ones that are on that list, I cannot pass those up. So I managed to acquire 2 of these at Comic-Con, and then one of them after Comic-Con using funds that I got from Comic-Con. So we'll jump right into those. The first of them is Lode Runner, which I had not played prior to acquiring this. I popped it in briefly, but I really not at a point where I can really even explain what the point of the game is, other than just acquiring little treasures and moving to like the next board while avoiding enemies and the like. The other one I acquired at Comic-Con, and this one I again have not played. I have more familiarity with it because of the characters, and this is Ice Climber. This is a black box in that it's one of the earlier titles for the system. And I'm familiar with the Ice Climber characters from Smash Brothers Melee, more specifically. The other title that I picked up, this was, again, after Comic-Con, is Stinger, which is supposed to be a shoot-'em-up that is part of a larger series, I think, and I'm not totally familiar with that series itself. This one is a 5-screw variant on that, so you can see on the top you don't have the normal tabs that the other ones do. So 5-screw copy of Stinger. So I'm very happy to have those. That brings me to 83 of the top 100 with 17 left to go. I had set myself a goal of hitting 90 by the end of the year, so on a good pace for that right now. So I will keep an eye out for those as the year progresses. The other major thing that I had tasked myself with this year, other than the Super Nintendo collection, was to fill out my Final Fantasy collection, my home console Final Fantasy collection. I wanted to have all of them complete, Black Label and all of that. So I made a few steps toward that here. I did acquire the Final Fantasy XII Collector's Edition, and this, I had the Final Fantasy XII Normal Edition, but this one comes, it's actually quite minty. Really nice looking manual. It looks like it's barely been touched, and then a bonus DVD for that as well. I have not played the Final Fantasy XII for PlayStation. At that point, I did not. I was more into Xbox when this came out, so I really never had a chance to dive into that. So now I have the collector's edition for that. Also happened to be able to turn my Final Fantasy Anthology and Final Fantasy Chronicles from Greatest Hits versions to Black Label versions. So these were the original releases. They have the Black Label on the side here instead of a green label, which is what Sony did for their Greatest Hits versions. So these are made up of Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger. So technically I got Chrono Trigger at Comic-Con. And then this one has Final Fantasy V and then Final Fantasy VI. If Final Fantasy VI is Final Fantasy III on the Super Nintendo, which is one of the, what people will say in some cases is one of the best of the series, a lot of people's favorite when it comes to that. So I'm happy to have converted those from greatest hits. I think I have only one more Final Fantasy title that is a greatest hits that I need to convert over. I think that's Final Fantasy Tactics. I have a few more games, primarily the Super Nintendo ones, that I need to acquire, and then also to find boxes, manuals, and all of that. So I was walking the floor at Comic-Con, and I tried looking at vendors, and part of it was truly Comic-Con. There were a lot of comic vendors, a lot of tables full of boxes with comics in them, and that just doesn't really get me. But I ran across someone who did some perler bead art. So if you're not familiar with these, the perler beads, they're the ones that you sort of put on the tray, and then you put a piece of wax over, or a wax paper, and then you iron it, and it turns it into almost pixel art. So I actually picked up this black belt from Final Fantasy I. It's a pretty decent sized magnet, but it's really well done. Okay, I love Final Fantasy, so I love picking up this kind of stuff. I don't have enough trinkets and things like that yet, so I'm hoping to get there with little things like this. The other Nintendo or Super Nintendo pickup that I had was part of a trade with Michael from the Iowa Retro Gamer Nation, and that was a copy of, and this fits in with the Nintendo Power that I acquired, but we have a copy of Metroid 2 Return of Samus with the manual. Very clean copy, the manual's in good shape. I have never played this one. I played the original, I played Super Metroid, but I just have not played Metroid 2, which leads into Super Metroid, so it'll be nice to get a chance to play that. So the last section of games that I have is for the Super Nintendo, and if you'll remember, I was at 49 of the top 100, so the next big pickup was going to be number 50, and that actually happened a week prior to Comic-Con. I had a pickup come from Tim from the Iowa Retro Gamer Nation, and he had snagged a duplicate of his very small Super Nintendo collection, so I could not pass up the opportunity to purchase these off of him. The first of which, and this was number 50, so the halfway point on my Super Nintendo collection is Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, and this is I've never played this game. It is a Squaresoft game, so it has a lot of connectivity to Final Fantasy and that series. I've just never had the opportunity, so this is going to be a new one for me, and that's what a lot of the Super Nintendo's been. It's been new games that I've heard about and people talk about all the time. I just never had the opportunity to actually try them, and so a lot of what I ended up acquiring, even from the other portion of that trade, so there was more to that acquisition. So number 51 is Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania 4. Again, first time playing this one as well. So thank you, Tim, for these two. It definitely pushed me over a major milestone, and kind of set me up nicely for Comic-Con. We'll jump right into these here. So one of the, and this is comical because the last time I had a pickup, I told you I did a label upgrade for my Mario Kart. Well, I did another one. This is still a player's choice version of Mario Kart, but the kart label is in much better shape than the last one was. So I ended up through trade acquiring a cleaner copy of Super Mario Kart still at 51 when it comes to that. But these 4 titles were all acquired from NES Depot. Again, I will link them in the description. Rob runs that, and he does a great job. Kudos to Rob at NES Depot. So these 4 titles that I picked up are, again, ones that are newer to me, but again, titles that have some significance and pretty big names behind them. So the first of which is Top Gear 2, which is a racing game. And I, again, not too familiar aside from the few minutes that I put in to test it, but it moves nicely. It's a pretty interesting game so far. So we'll see about getting into that. The next one, and the story on this one was I knew that there was going to be a copy of this game there. When I had gotten there, it was already gone. But then later in the day, all of a sudden, I saw a boxed copy of it pop up, along with all the box games that they had. And I really am not collecting for boxes, so I asked them and I said, any chance that you would sell this without the box? Because I just have the cart. And the guy behind the counter, or the guy behind the table, said, well, I kind of want the box and the manual. I said, well, let's figure this out. So I ended up paying for the cart. He ended up figuring something out for the box and manual, and so I got my copy of Super Ghouls and Ghosts. And this will be the first time that I've really gotten into this. I know this game is notoriously difficult, but I am going to give it a shot. I know I was watching some of J-Rock, the Game Rocker, has a series on how to rock this game. So I know he really enjoys this, so I'm looking forward to playing this and seeing how much of a challenge it actually is, and going from there. Next big pickup, and these next 2 are kind of the big ticket items that I got over this whole weekend. The first of which is Contra 3, the Alien Wars, and this is the next in the series that I have. So I have Contra, I have Super C, and then I have Contra 3, the Alien Wars now. I really enjoy the Contra series. And just popping this in, it plays so smoothly. I'm pretty happy with that one. And then the last one. So again, another title that popped up with the Nintendo Powers earlier, and again another Squaresoft game, but this is Secret of Mana. And I really don't know a ton about this game. I do know that there's some local multiplayer options with this for an RPG, which is kind of interesting. I don't know that I will take advantage of that a whole lot, but this game is pretty highly regarded, at least from what I have seen and read, so I am very much looking forward to Secret of Mana. So those are my pickups. For the Super Nintendo, that actually puts me at 55 games out of that top 100, which is what my goal was for this year. I had told myself, it's like, if I can get to 55, that would be good. To hit it in early February just sets me up to obliterate my goal. It's also nice, I can kind of dial back I can focus on some of the other areas and not have to have that eating at me unless there's a really good opportunity that pops up. So again, that takes me to 55 of the top 100. For the NES, I'm at 83 of the top 100. All in all, again, I think this was a pretty amazing set of pickups for me. And again, I'd like to thank NES Depot for being at Comic-Con and then being willing to work with me on pricing and trade and all that stuff. So, and also thanks to the other IO Retro Gamer Nation guys who were there, who we got to meet up with, who were doing some hotel room deals because it was easier to do that there than on the show floor with as many people as were there. So that has been my Comic-Con pickups. I'm going to leave it there, but I would encourage you to check out some of my other series. I, again, do have Musty's Quest, which is the search for the top 100 Nintendo and Super Nintendo games, and I also have the Collection Chronicles, which is my ongoing series toward collecting the entire Xbox library. So I will link those somewhere here, or provide some kind of way for you to access those playlists if you want to take a look at it. Again, I would really appreciate it if you like the video or subscribe. If you want to share this with friends, I would encourage you to as well. Again, I've been Musty. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for sticking out through this super long video. But take care of yourself and be good to each other. We'll see you later. Bye.